a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Luke Skywalker has vanished. In his absence, the sinister First Order has risen from the ashes of the Empire and will not rest until Skywalker, the last Jedi, has been destroyed. With the support of the Republic, General Leia Organa leads a brave resistance. She is desperate to find her brother Luke and gain his help in restoring peace and justice to the galaxy. Leia has sent her most daring pilot on a secret mission to Jakku, where an old ally has discovered a clue to Luke's whereabouts.
What is up, Bombad fam? Welcome to the Bombadcast. This is your boy, the Cannon Junkie, with his co-pilot Jack the Cat, and my co-pilot Scotty Gilleran.
Yes.
How you doing, buddy?
Scotty, Jack Gerry. I'm doing great. I am so excited to be talking about The Force Awakens right now. We are literally so close to The Rise of Skywalker. If I'm not mistaken, this will be coming out on Tuesday, so we are less than 10 days away at this point. I cannot believe it. That is wild. This is insane. But no, with that being said, it feels like yesterday that I was in theaters seeing this movie, and it feels like no time has really passed. It's very surreal. And here we are talking about it on a podcast nonetheless, and it's just, I don't know. I can't believe it. And our guest we have is amazing, and Gerry, bring her in. I'm stoked.
You know what? I think I will, Scotty. I think I will. We have with us today, guys, the one and only Lacey Gilleran of the Resistance Broadcast. Lacey, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys? Excited to be here.
We are fantastic. So, we're still working on getting the entire crew of the Resistance Broadcast on here. We're a little behind. We've had John on twice.
That's because John is on everything. John is everywhere.
Yes.
John, him, and they talk about him all the time on Black Series Rebels, calling him Hoey. But yeah, hey, we
can't get away from him.
No, right now we have arguably probably the greatest member of the Resistance.
I wouldn't say that, but I'll take it.
Okay, good.
As long as you can take it. No, we're just so excited to have you, Lacey. It's been a long time coming, and we'll get James in here eventually, maybe talking about music or whatever he jives the most with Rebels, whatever.
This is a challenge. Just tweet at James and tell him to tweet at us, and we'll get him on the Bombadcast. Maybe. Now,
James knows a lot. He's a good guest.
Oh,
that's true. He is very knowledgeable for sure. So, and me and James probably agree a lot sometimes, except for Obi-Wan Kenobi, that whole fiasco.
Oh yeah,
that whole thing.
Yeah, we won't talk about that, Ro.
Well, whenever we were doing this Bombadcast build-up, we were thinking about the people we'd have on for episode, and there is no one else that likes this episode more than Lacey, and if you listen to TRB, you'll know that she is a huge fan of this movie. And watching it the other night, when I first saw it, I loved it, but I didn't truly get it. And now sitting on it for the past, what's it been, 2 or 3 years? 3 years, right? Almost 4. Almost 4. Am I right? Is it been that long?
It's been almost 5 years, man. It was 2015.
Oh, that's wild. Well, I sat on it.
Freaking old.
Yeah. Well, it's
been 84 years.
That's one thing I want to kind of get into, this movie, it kicked off so much, and I don't know about y'all. I mean, I guess we can kind of get into it now. What did it kick off for you, Lacey? In general, what did it awaken within you particularly?
Ooh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I see what you did there, Awaken.
No,
all good. Great minds think alike. What did it awaken? The Force Awakens is my go-to. I say that all the time. I've been saying it for 2 years on the podcast almost. It is one of those things that growing up, I grew up on the original trilogy, and then the prequels came around, and I wasn't the biggest fan of them, but, who hates Star Wars? It's Star Wars. I love it no matter what, but with this movie in particular, it was one of those things that I didn't think we were ever going to get more Star Wars movies. So the excitement of getting a new Star Wars movie, going to the theater and seeing a Star Wars movie, and then more than that, having a woman character grab a lightsaber and be the hero of the movie is like what I've been waiting for my whole life. So this is definitely an important movie to me. And I remember that moment when I first saw it, I thought it was going to be Luke. No joke. I was this is where Luke comes in. And it's funny because Mark Hamill says that when he read the script, that's where he's like, oh, here's my entrance. But it wasn't Luke. And I'm so glad, not necessarily that it isn't him, because I love Luke Skywalker, but at the same time, I am glad it's not him because it's Rey. And that moment, it's hard to kind of express how much that moment means to me. It's kind of similar to like the Wonder Woman getting up and going across the field scene that I like am sobbing in the theater while watching. It's just a really, really important moment to me because I grew up loving Luke Skywalker and loving Leia, but Leia never touched a lightsaber. So to have that female character do that and kind of be the hero is super important to me, and I'm sure lots of other women and little girls.
I mean, Gerry can vouch. Gerry's got a, what, 2.5-year-old, Gerry? Almost
2.5-year-old, yeah. And we just got back yesterday. By the time you're listening to this, it was Saturday. But we hit round 2 of Frozen 2 with just me and her yesterday, or Saturday. And oh my goodness, we were both, I was sobbing because that movie is amazing. But she is just was enthralled with those, those strong Disney princesses. I mean, who would think that, but but even my wife, I love that more big media is doing this, because like the scene in Avengers Endgame where we have the assembly of the A team, or the A Force with all the women characters kind of like getting together and stuff. My wife, after the movie, she's not a huge Marvel fan or Star Wars fan or anything, but she watches them, she likes them. She goes, I never really knew that I needed to see that. But I needed to see that. And I'm so excited that, especially Rey's journey is just, it's essential. And like you said, Lacey, Leia had the Force. She was a main character. She wasn't the Jedi. And that's what everyone wanted to be. When we were growing up, everyone wants to pick up a lightsaber and swing it. And sorry, news organizations who think that girls don't like Star Wars and other things that are going on and
shenanigans.
It's shenanigans for sure, because like, man, I've always known of girls who love Star Wars, and it's just so cool, especially now. It's so important for me as a father that my little girl is going to have heroes like that she can look up to and aspire to be like that, and it's gonna be okay. No one's gonna give her crap about it. So I'll put my soapbox away now.
No, it's important because I never realized until maybe just about 4 years ago how important representation is. And like, I've been so used to seeing a male action character in a movie that's generally all the male leads are these, really awesome characters. And, it's really weird to understand it now. Not weird. That's a horrible phrase to use. It's awesome to know that this exists and that we're all really able to be a part of this time and this change of Hollywood. It's beautiful. And like, I love Rey as a character. I think she's incredible. I think she's an amazing character, and what they've done with her arc has been so good, and how much she's changed as a character and the people around her have changed. And this movie came out at a time when I needed it. I was a freshman in college. No, I was a sophomore in college, and now like this conclusion's right when I step into my first career as a teacher. And it's just so cool to see these kids who are, let's see, it's been 4 years now. So these kids were 6 or 7 when this movie came out. And like, I have girls who are like, I love Rey. Rey's an awesome character. And they tell me that as students. And it's like, dang, like they get that. Like they get to have that opportunity. Or my friends and I had a great friend of mine who was a girl, Olivia. She always had to play like Padme, or, not that Padme's not a strong character, but she's nowhere near as strong as Rey is in regards to what she can do and her influence on the overall Star Wars saga. Like Rey,
I always took it a step further. I was always Leia's daughter who was a Jedi. I was like, Leia doesn't have a Jedi sword. Okay, well, I'm her daughter and I'm going on missions and I have one. And then I loopholed it. What?
That's huge. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
But the good thing is you don't have to make it up anymore. You know,
Right.
That's a reality.
Right.
It's such a blessing. And, you know, I almost wish I can go back when that movie first came out and just like see how I reacted, because when that, like you said, Lacey, when that force grab happened, of course we were all convinced it'd be Mark, it would be Luke, but it was her, and it was like, yes.
I screamed. I was the only one in the theater that did it.
Exactly. I didn't know I needed that. Like you said, it was like, this is it.
I still get chills every time.
Me too.
Like, every time I watch it, man, it's so. And the whole like Force theme that plays when Luke finds Uncle Owen, Gru, which is kind of the hero moment. It's the hero moment, where they take it up. They're like, I'm gonna do this, and it's just so good.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to start at the end.
You know what? Like all good things. Yeah. It's like that. You're probably wondering how we got here. So.
Yeah, this is how.
No. Well, I wanted to ask you both, what to you makes this a great Star Wars movie? Because it is a great movie indeed. The structure of it, I always will say The Force Awakens has the best pacing of any Star Wars movie. I mean, you start it and it's so well paced, it just ends perfectly. There's no lulls in the story at all. Besides, I think Maz's Castle is the only thing where it like kind of takes a break, and then everything else after that's like boom, 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 boom. Things you remember, things that are new, things you remember, things that are new. And Gerry, real quick, what to you makes this a great Star Wars movie as a whole?
This was like after it wasn't as big of a drought as there was between, like I said, I was born in 87, so I don't know really what the drought was like, because Star Wars has always existed for me. But like, I can't imagine between 1983 and 1999, we didn't have anything. And then, the prequels ended and we had Clone Wars for a bit. And then it was kind of just, I met my wife and there wasn't really any new Star Wars coming up besides Clone Wars, and I was a normal person. Then, they announced there's going to be more Star Wars, and of course I descended into madness. But this was Star Wars coming back, and it was not to focus on like the people who didn't really like the prequels and stuff. I know people have issues with those, but it's fine. But, this was like their chance to come back and be like, no, Star Wars is back. It's the Star Wars you remember. And man, it's here to stay. And I don't know what makes this one so great, though. That's just like the reasons why everyone was excited. But like, I don't know, I guess to me, what makes this great is just the way it feels like such a warm blanket, while at the same time, warm blanket, not a wet blanket, warm blanket. But at the same time, it's got all the nostalgia, but it's got such a fresh and interesting story. And that's why I don't know. I kind of like when people say it's just a ripoff of A New Hope. I kind of say I don't really see that. It's got homages to the entire original trilogy.
It does,
but I don't know. And by the way, how great is that opening crawl? That's got to be at least the best opening crawl, maybe second only to the Revenge of the Sith crawl. I don't know. I think this one's my favorite. Like, Luke Skywalker has vanished. Are you kidding me? How insane is that? But anyway, Lacey, what about you?
I have to agree with both of you. You make good points. The pacing is perfect. This movie is my go-to because it's one that I can watch that's newer in the sense of like visual effects and
right.
They use a lot of practical stuff, which I love from like the original trilogy. They aren't using a ton of CGI, which is what I kind of dislike from the prequels, is that they use so much computer stuff that I'm just like, oh, this looks so fake.
It's a video game.
But yeah, but this one, it has great acting. It has the original trilogy characters in it, and it is the perfect way to refresh the series by passing the baton, so to speak, to the new guys without losing that feeling of the original trilogy, which I grew up on and I adore. It's just, I just love everything about it. It's got funny writing. It's got moments that you laugh, moments that you cry. and it ends in a way that is hopeful, which I love. And I find that oftentimes the Star Wars movies that I don't go back to very often are the ones that leave me feeling uneasy or sad, or I wouldn't say disappointed is not the right word, but ones that don't leave me feeling like I have closure. And this is one of those movies that if I still hadn't seen The Last Jedi at this point, I'd be okay, because it closes it in such a way that I'm like, oh, there's so many great things to come, which is often my problem with The Last Jedi, is I leave that movie so anxious and unsure and like in a terrible place mind-wise that it just makes me very sad. So I'd rather end happily. That's why I like this one. That's why I like New Hope. That's why I like Return of the Jedi, because I leave the movie happy, and life tends to suck a lot more than be great sometimes. And when you leave a movie feeling great, it just makes your day that much better.
Well, you know what? You bring up a good thing, Lacey, and I don't mean to plug your movement, Make Solo 2 Happen, but let's Make Solo 2 Happen. That movie, to me, it's kind of random. I don't mean to go off the topic, but
no, it's okay. Go for it.
Solo has the literal best ending in regards to how you describe it. It ends with like, you got so much closure, you know, well, where to next, buddy? And then, you know, I heard there's a gangster on, you know, whatever, and they push it together, and that to me is still the greatest ending to a Star Wars movie, just because of how promising it is. That's really kind of beautiful. I never thought about them as a promise for the next adventure, or as a hopeful ending of everything we got is satisfying. There's no cliffhanger. And, this one actually, in a weird way, does end on a literal cliffhanger. We'll get into that later. But it's weird. This movie is the last movie to me that was like last Star Wars movie so far. Maybe The Rise of Skywalker might be different, but everyone needed to see this movie, and it was amazing.
Yes, yep.
Like, I'll never forget how powerful that comment and that moment was in general. Like, I saw it with all my grandparents. I saw it with just. It was anyone needed to see this movie. And it felt like Star Wars is finally back. And I guess that awoken within me. It was like this happened. And then I remember I think it must have been January, Alex Damon started Star Wars Explained, or Star Wars Minute. And I started watching his videos. And then I started to become slowly more invested into the YouTube community, slowly more invested into looking at analytical videos and doing things. And then I found TRB in 2017, and it's so weird how like snowball. And here we are now talking about this movie on our own podcast. It's just like, I'm reflecting on it. It's unbelievable. It's just so awesome to think that this movie was the one that just absolutely kicked it off. And I guess, you know, my life was very different years ago. And now, I mean, I'm sure you can say the same, Lacey, and I know you can say the same, Gerry. It's like, I never thought I'd be here, right? I mean...
Right. I saw The Force Awakens with my dad, and it's one of those things that if Bill Gill is watching something, that means it's like hit the general population, because he doesn't know anything. Like, if he's telling me how Lindsay Lohan did something, I'm like, oh, that must be somewhere like front page, because Bill Gill knows nothing. So I saw this movie with him, and I remember he left being like, oh, that was fun. That was a Star Wars movie.
I love
but then he never saw The Last Jedi. He never saw Solo. He never saw Rogue One. But he saw The Force Awakens because it had Harrison Ford in it, and it had, you know, Mark Hamill in it and Carrie Fisher. So I totally agree. I feel like that's the only one that on a regular basis, like even my coworkers who aren't big Star Wars fans are always like, what was the last one with Harrison Ford? I'm like, Force Awakens? It was 4 years ago. Like, what are you doing? And they're like, well, everyone had to see that. So I'm hoping that this next one, The Rise of Skywalker, is something that everyone's going to want to see. But I think that's part of my excitement too, is that it was just everyone saw this movie.
It was awesome. And weird thing is right now I'm kind of, I teach 11, 12 and 13-year-olds, and
I'm so sorry.
No, I love it. No, I mean, sometimes I regret it, but no, the Mandalorian is. Yeah,
I'm
only
just thinking
sometimes.
of what I was like at 13, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
Well, it's I completely get that too. It's weird. The Mandalorian's kind of doing this thing now too, where my coworkers at the school I teach at, they'll come up to me like, "Hey, what's that whole thing about?" You know, and I tell them, "Oh, you got to see it. It's very different. It's new. It's refreshing." And they're like, "Okay." Yeah, well then they go and watch it, and they come back to me the next week like I watched all 4 episodes or whatever, and it's I think whatever Lucasfilm and Disney are doing, and they're kind of revamping certain things, it's nice to hear that again. It's kind of like coming back in the popularity. It's like I think it's like a once every 5-year thing that Star Wars flows in and out of popularity. But I don't know. With that being said, let's kind of get to the main discussion, the big thing, the movie itself. We're going to do it a little bit differently for our Bombad fam. We've been like going sequence by sequence, moment by moment, everything by everything with the last Bombad Buildup. Since we're kind of coming to a close, and we've had 4 years to reflect on this movie, but I still don't think that's enough. We're going to kind of approach this just from a story point of view and really about the importance of each character, their significance, the parallels throughout the whole Skywalker saga, and in particular, moments we think are really significant that will play into the Rise of Skywalker and, of course, be resolved in The Last Jedi. I don't know. I guess I kind of want to get into, these new characters. And I wrote in the notes, and I want to know what you both think of this. I think these new characters are living in the outcome of our legacy characters. Like, they're still living with this burden of war that I think, and I hope will be resolved in The Rise of Skywalker. For example, Rey, she literally lives on a world full of old war machines, And Finn's a stormtrooper who's unloyal. He is a stormtrooper that doesn't realize how bad he has it. And Poe is a child of war. It's interesting. What do you think why do you think they kicked it off this way, Gerry? Why do you think this is the way to bring in these new characters through the shadows of a war before them, years before them, 30 years before them?
Well, I think it's just such an interesting overarching story for this new trilogy. JG and them were talking about like why are we going back to this galaxy? Why are we going back to this story? And it's just such an interesting approach to be like, well, here are people living in the shadow of these big heroes, this great war that we were witness to, and we thought it ended back then. And they're literally living in like the rubble that they left behind, and dealing with it's just very it's almost real world, but it's I don't know, it's just that enough of the real world like Star Wars usually is that it's not depressing. It's more just like a morality tale, or it's just kind of like it's the mythology, like Star Wars is modern mythology, and so
it is.
But I don't know. I just it's always been such an interesting story that here the older generation fought this fight, and the new generation, the younger generation, they're still dealing with the consequences of what happened back then.
Yeah, especially these new characters, we can always jump back to Leia, Luke, and Han, and now Lando, being these people that fought in this previous war, and you can see how much it's taken a toll on them. But these new characters, like you said, this is all they know. This idea of war, especially Poe as a character, his parents both being war heroes, and Ben being this character that's just horribly conflicted by what a war has done to his parents and his life. Lacey, any response on that in particular? What war's done to these people, and how it's kind of shaped the sequel trilogy as a whole?
Yeah, I think they needed to have that, because oftentimes, especially with Return of the Jedi, you're just like, oh, everything's happy. They're hugging. They got music. There's dancing teddy bears. Everyone's having a great time. And you don't realize the repercussions of a war and how its lasting impact of death, and on both sides, not just good or bad. Because I'm sure there's people that worked for the Empire that were just like trying to get a paycheck. They didn't know they were the bad guys. But you see Rey obviously put on this planet where she's surrounded by death and destruction, and yet she's like this beaming light of hope out of all of that, which is very interesting. And then you have Finn, who's just deciding like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't right. it's just super interesting to see characters that when you're introduced to them, like you guys said, it's all they know. It's all they've been their whole life. But it's going to be interesting into this next movie of how they're going to deal with it and how the events in TFA set up what's going to happen in The Rise of Skywalker. But to me, Rey is kind of self-explanatory. She was left on this planet. It was like not really her choice. Yeah. I feel like the most interesting characters are Finn, Poe, and Ben in this scenario because Finn is deciding to change his life. Poe has decided to take this fight on because he didn't have to. He chose to. And then you have Ben who's kind of running from it, but running from it in the wrong way. Like he's running into the bad side. So it must really stink to be in Ben's position because unlike Finn and Poe, who are making a choice of themselves to be like, yes, I'm going to do the right thing, Ben is so unsure of what the right thing is due to his parents' own lack of responsibility of, okay, we need to step away from the war. Like Leia never leaves. She's always in it. So I can't imagine being in that position as a child being like, oh, so I come second to this fight.
Yeah, well, and also he's the descendant of this great lineage, and his uncle is Luke Skywalker, and I know I was listening to Force Center a couple hours before this, and they break down how like Luke, especially in TLJ, and his character, he is seen as the hero, like through everything he is seen as the hero, and I can't imagine having that burden as a character, you know. We've got these new characters, you know, living through war and not knowing a world other than that. And it's funny to think about it, too. Han never wanted to be a part of the fight. So Han's return just makes the most sense. He ran away from it. I mean, that's all he knows. We see that in Solo. We see that in A New Hope. I mean, that character is so true to who he is. And especially by the end of the movie, he does the classic Han Solo switch back. He's like, I guess I got to do this. You know, I've got a lot of responsibility to finish this fight and bring my son back to the light. And I think Leia being so involved with the fight is such a perfect representation of her character. Like that makes the absolute most sense out of almost all the character arcs in Star Wars. She is just still fighting the good fight. She still wants to win. And I really cannot wait to see how they resolve that conflict and that arc in The Rise of Skywalker, if they do. At least I hope they do. And it's weird. We also get introduced to a new droid character, which is BB-8. And let's take a moment to appreciate how amazing BB-8 is. Like in every facet. Like when they first showed in that teaser from November of 2014, BB-8, that was like amazing in every way possible.
I think
wouldn't y'all
screamed.
Agree?
I was like at my
we
were up here. We didn't live in Michigan yet, and we were visiting my wife's family. We were at a grandparents' house, and I had ran off to the kitchen to wherever everyone wasn't, and I started watching it. I think I made like an audible joy noise, like I was like whoa or something, and they were like, "What are you watching?" So I had to show them. But my goodness, how crazy. It's like how cool of a character design, and like that it's brand spanking new, but you like immediately are like, that's an astromech droid, that's a new astromech droid, this is Star Wars, you know. It's I don't know, it's just crazy cool.
I remember when it came out on the stage at the Force Awakens panel at Celebration. I was working for Celebration at the time, and I was sitting up front to do social media. And at this point, we had seen the teaser trailer from like November, and we saw it in there rolling around. But like people kind of, like myself included, assumed it was CGI. We were like, oh, it's CGI. Right. And then when it came rolling out, I can't express the gasps of everyone in the audience. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is a thing. Like this is a real actual droid. It was one of the coolest moments, and I'll always remember it. It was just so cool. And then now I've actually seen it even up close. You know, it is such a cool design, and I'm pretty sure I remember them saying that JJ wrote it on a napkin and was like, "This is what I'm thinking. This is what I want." And then they made it. But yeah, no, he is the coolest, and he has such a great personality, and it's funny because you have C-3PO, you have R2-D2, and you have BB-8 and soon Dio, but the main three in this movie at least, they all have different personalities, and it's so funny because if you think about robots, you're like, oh, they're kind of all the same, but not in Star Wars. They're all different.
Right.
And you bring up a good point too, that initial shock of that was a real thing. I really, that's the God, I wish I would have been there for that one, but
I gasped on the live
I remember watching the live stream. Me too.
On my lunch break in Arkansas.
I have a video of it when it comes out. I'll have to post it this week before the movie comes out. All my old school memories, but yeah, I have a video of it, and just like you hear the crowd go,
yeah,
that is amazing.
It's just
really funny.
Well, we had been talking about in this show how R2-D2 is the storyteller of, of course, the prequels and the original trilogy. I just think that would make the most sense. If someone's going to be telling a story, it'd be R2 seeing everything. And BB-8 kind of picks up in its own weird way, kind of where R2 leaves off. He's the central MacGuffin for a little while in the movie. Luke is the main MacGuffin, but R2's this MacGuffin not R2. BB-8's this MacGuffin, and this very significant character. And I love that they did that. It's a beautiful parallel to the importance of droids and the importance of R2-D2 and 3PO. And it's cool because when BB-8 shows up is kind of when we get to see Rey too, their interaction for the first time. And it's one thing I want to kind of bring up in regards to Rey is like the parallels that we see with Rey. She is so much like Anakin and Luke. They're all kind of, these people on a desert planet, of course, but they all got these interesting internal conflicts. Rey probably with the most because all she knows is this lifestyle. That's it. But fortunately, Anakin had a mother who took care of him and loved him. Luke had aunts and uncle until he was 19 that took care of him and loved him. Rey had literally no one, not a single person. And could you imagine being like that and then meeting someone like Finn who also had no one and no one cared for him or loved him? Imagine how important their meeting would be, for the overall saga. Because of course we know Rey is very powerful with the Force, but at the time we didn't know that. And it's just so cool to think about how important that meeting was and how similar it is to, Anakin and Luke. And the fact that Rey even knows about the Jedi and knows about Luke, Luke Skywalker. I mean, I heard he was a myth. She's such a great character. And I don't know, I've honestly think one of the best themes to come out the sequel trilogy is Rey's theme, 100%. I never would have thought that. And it's, as a character, she's so influential, and what she does in this movie in particular is really awesome. Gerry, you have anything to say about her and how she develops throughout this film?
Everything you said, man. I will say one thing about, you guys know I'm always talking about the music in these Bombad Buildup episodes, but Rey's theme, I remember when he first got I remember first watching the movie and thinking, the music didn't really stand out that much to me, and being kind of grumpy, oh man, they didn't use any old themes. But the more I listened to that soundtrack and stuff, I remember there was one point where I knew it was this is going to be classic Star Wars. This is we're in good hands. We had just moved up to Michigan and there was snow everywhere, and I was taking the trash. I had to walk the trash from our apartment all the way to a dumpster that was a couple units down, and I was walking through the snow listening to earbuds, and Rey's theme comes on, and I felt like I was walking on Starkiller Base. And just with my big old sack of trash slung over my shoulder like a Michigan Santa Claus, a hobo Santa Claus up here, bringing all the garbage to the good girls and boys. No, but I remember walking, listening to that and going wow, this is really beautiful and really good and haunting. And, there's a reason why they use it for the Star Wars show, theme song. So I don't know, man. Rey is, what we've already said, it's cool having a character, not to get into it. Well, I guess we'll get into it later, but Luke and Anakin, Anakin still had his mom, even though they were slaves. Luke had it the best of all the protagonists so far, I feel like, because he had a loving aunt and uncle who just kind of took care of him, and he had like a really domestic life, you know? And then here we've got Rey, who was orphaned on a planet given to this bulbous jellyfish man, and lives inside of a tin can in the desert that I'm sure has no central heat and air.
No.
Yeah. Really sad, like to see all those like, days scratched on the thing. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling and let Lacey kind of chime in on this.
Yeah, I was going to say that the crossing off of the lines is one of the most jarring things about Rey when you get introduced to her, is that huge wall that it cuts away to. Like, you just see how long it's been. But other than that, like, her theme is one of the best themes. Her introduction into the movie, if not into Star Wars, is one of the best introductions of a character, from her opening the panel with the mask on. You're not sure who it is. Of course, we knew a little bit about it because we saw, you know, behind the scenes pictures and stuff. But if you were to go in cold, you wouldn't know who that was, if it was an alien or a human or what. And then, yeah, you see that she's kind of on her own and she's figuring out, and she just looks so young when you meet her.
Yeah, that's true.
But then as the movie goes on, you realize, first of all, she has all these skills, which she's learned on the planet, you know, working in the desert, being by herself, like fighting people off of her scraps, basically.
It's very well established. It's,
yes,
that drives me insane.
She fights.
Yeah.
She has one of the best costumes in the series, and she has the best hair. So she's just like the whole package, in the sense of she is such a good hero, but at the same time, she doesn't know she's the hero yet.
Yep.
And that's what makes her so relatable. She doesn't understand that it's up to her yet, which you really feel for. I know I felt for, where it's like sometimes you're just searching for the people where you belong. It's very similar to Luke, like looking for that adventure. But yet at the same time, she's holding her own self back, waiting for that, instead of just taking that chance and taking that risk and, you know, jumping off the cliff, so to speak, to see what comes next. I really feel for that, because I know often I have a fear of failure myself. So to see Rey as a character be like struggling the entire movie, where she's like, I don't know if I could do this. I have to go back. I can't go outside this box that I've made for myself. But then once she does, she's the hero of her own story. And that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, and like Kylo says in TLJ, you've got no part in this story, but she is writing her own. You know, like that's a very kind of cool thing you said. Yeah, and one thing I can kind of, if you want to parallel, the only other character that's had an orphan life like this is Han, and you can see why Han clings to her. You know, Han understands being on the same planet for years. Han understands never seeing green in the galaxy until, I think that's what that look means. Everyone to put that look and use that look as something else, but I think that looks like, kid, I understand. Yep. Like, I did not know what green was like, what something beyond Corellia was like. And, you know, a very rough life. I mean, Han's what they call him, a scrum rat or something, like that. Rey is the equivalent, the Jakku equivalent. I mean, and I think one of the coolest scenes in Rey's introduction is when she's cleaning that part and she looks on at that older woman, and I mean, the sun has destroyed that poor woman's face, and she's sitting there cleaning something very similar, and it like clicks. She's like, that's gonna be me. Like, that's going to be me. Yep. And
that's
such a surreal
very,
moment.
Like, crazy, like, ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to be here forever.
Yeah, we said that in our Patreon commentary that we just posted this past weekend. Okay. We talk about that a lot, actually, about how that moment is so sad. Because the slow push on Rey when she's looking at this old woman is, oh no, what have I, like, this is going to be me. And it's just so sad.
Oh, well, let's plug the Patreon. Then it's one of the best out there. I'm just going to be honest. No, it is. It is one of TRB really is one of the best. I'm going to be serious.
You were like, all right, let's just plug the Patreon.
I'm just saying, we just said that. It's kind of crazy.
Well,
it's just so funny.
That is crazy. Yeah.
It's really, but it's something that people don't pick up on. You know, it's huge, and her name within itself, I think that's what her name is. She thinks that's what her name is, Rey. And it's like it's like a force for light. You know, it's a positive. It's a ray of light. And she is just that as a character. And she needs to be that hero for some people. And she doesn't know that. And I love how Han treats her a certain way. And then Luke in TLJ completely treats her the opposite way. You know, like Han is like, yeah, we'll join. Let's be friends together. And then she gets to Luke, I'm sure assuming the same treatment. And quite the opposite happens, you know, like I don't want to see you get away from me. I kind of want to jump to Ben now, because if we're going to talk about both the protagonists of the sequel trilogy, I am in the boat of Ben is also a protagonist. I don't see him as an antagonist. He has antagonistic ways, but he's not a character that I go, oh, what an evil, hateful character, because he's not, and that's the best part about Ben. So I love this opening line for Ben Solo. I guess Lor Santeca says it. You cannot deny the truth that is your family. And how Ben can interpret it a certain way, but how we can interpret it a certain way now. You know what I mean? Like, for Ben, it's like, yeah, I'm Darth Vader's grandson. Like, I can't deny the truth that it is. But for us, it's like, no, you're the son of Han and Leia and the nephew to Luke Skywalker. It's such a powerful statement, and how that to me kind of parallels Luke, Han, and Leia as characters. You know, Ben is the combination of all three of their failures and their successes. I know I actually want to hear, starting with Lacey in particular. Lacey, this whole introduction of Ben and Ben as a character, how now looking back at it and where we are now, what like a retrospective kind of outlook on it, how do you feel about the character now versus how you felt about it then initially?
I hated him.
Yeah.
When I met him.
Yeah.
I walked out of TFA hating him and saying he killed Han. He's the worst character ever. How could he do that to Han? Because especially in this movie, Han Solo to me is like my dad. Like that is my dad. The like gruffy, like, oh, whatever. Like that's Bill Gill. So to see that on screen, I was like, oh my God, it's like he's killing my dad. Yeah, I hated him. I thought he was a brat. I thought he was spoiled. I thought he had a moment where he could have been good and he walked away. And I kept thinking, like, how could Han and Leia bring this person into the world?
Yeah.
Like, how did this happen? I have to say one of my favorite scenes with him is definitely the scene where Matika says, like, oh, she got away. And he, like, chokes him. But the part where he slashes, because on the commentary with JJ, he actually mentions how this is the moment that he fell in love with Adam, is when Adam Driver, obviously. Yeah. For the people at home that don't know, his name's Adam Driver. He does the slashing or whatever, and then he pauses and he turns around and he goes, anything else? And JJ said that like that was the moment that he was like, he is so funny and sarcastic and he's perfect for this role. And I couldn't agree more. They cast him without him auditioning. He was just chosen by Kathleen Kennedy. She was like, I want you in this movie. And he was like, okay, I need a couple months to think about it. All right, Adam. So yeah, no, I left this movie hating him. But since then, obviously everyone knows he's like my favorite character now. So it's kind of funny, but I think looking back on it, you can see kind of moments where you feel bad for him, because he is trying to live up to this legacy. He is a kid, maybe not, he is a full grown man, obviously, but like he kind of has the mind of a kid like Rey in the sense of he was kind of disregarded by his parents. And JJ has openly said back in TFA for press tours and stuff, he was like, you know, sometimes great people make bad parents. Yeah. And I think it was what we were talking about earlier with the war, where you have two people that lived this war for so long that it's like, oh, it's over. What now? So they didn't really know how to handle this kid that had this tremendous power that was being preyed on. So they give him to Luke, and then Luke goes and tries to kill him, which we find out in the next movie. So what do you think that kid's going to do? He's going to turn to the person that he thinks understands him, which is Snoke, which ultimately is the worst person ever. But I feel for Ben because he is misunderstood. And that being said, for the people listening, I understand he made bad choices. I understand he's killed people. I get it. But there needs to be a separation for people sometimes of fiction and nonfiction. This is fiction. That means that if someone kills someone, they didn't do it in real life. Right. Therefore, it's okay if he comes back from it. Like, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't make him a Nazi. It doesn't make him a terrible person. He just made a bad choice. And that's part of fantasy, is that it's the over the top, like, this would never happen in real life. But that being said, like, I'm very interested to see what happens with him moving forward. But the craziest scene has to be where he kills Han, because that, you know, the movie was written by Lawrence Kasdan, but his son John stepped in to help write that scene. So
that's awesome.
The craziest part about that scene is, like, it's kind of him versus father-son writers writing together, and John Kasdan is the one that put in those moments of, like, regret and remorse, and that he didn't fully go for this kill. There was a moment of, what did I just do? Yeah. So I think people kind of miss that. Right. Beautiful. The way absolutely. Yeah, well, I just think it's just heartbreaking to watch.
It is. And of course, Kylo Ren or Ben Solo's struggles are so human. Like this idea for longing to be a part of something, though you're never satisfied with what you're a part of, and having to deal with, you know, the legacy of your family. I mean, I don't know if y'all have ever dealt with, like, your parents being like, oh, why are you doing this? You should be doing this like I did. Or, you know, it's like, it's kind of personifying that idea of, like, you need to carry on how good your family is too. You know what I mean? In its own weird regard. Like, and Ben Solo has this untapped power, and the only person that was like, no, let me help you out, it was Snoke. And you bring up a great point, Lacey. That is the first person he went to, because he was neglected in its own weird way. He had two parents that were very busy people, very powerful people, and they don't make the best parents. And the only person that tried to accept him was Luke, and then Luke saw the hate and evil within him, and Luke made the same mistake he did in Return of the Jedi when he had the lightsaber held over him. He just knew, oh my God, I just made a huge mistake. And then in his confusion, he created Kylo Ren. It went from being Ben. What?
No, sorry, I was going to let you finish your thought. But I was just going to say that Luke Skywalker is the Joe Bluth of the Star Wars universe for sure. So it's like, I made a huge mistake. So.
Luke is another conversation for another time.
Yes. No, that's a great point. But I think it's so funny how naturally emotional every Skywalker is, and in particular Ben Solo. He is such a character that is so emotional, and one of my favorite lines of all time from that character is the way he delivers it. He yells "traitor" at Finn. Literally, I like punch the couch, I punch the desk. Wherever I'm watching, I'm like, oh, he hits it so perfect, because it's Anakin again, liar. You know, it's like, I don't know. They had to have watched that scene and been like, let's rip something from Anakin. And it's literally exactly how Anakin yells liar. And it's like, you see that. You see so much of Anakin within him, and it hurts, because you know that this character can be so good, but he chooses to be involved or be a part of the dark side, and he's not that. Every
he didn't
Skywalker
want to kill his dad.
No,
he was
didn't.
Forced to. Right. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm sorry, Gerry. You need to talk about Ben. I didn't give you a chance to talk about Ben yet. I'm sorry.
You know what? Just never let it happen again. Okay. Just
no, sir.
No. I was just thinking, like about that part in particular, the traitor.
Yeah.
I am I'm 100% on the Ben Notion train, right? But that every time I watch that, even this last time, that moment where he like spins the saber and yells "traitor" at Finn, I'm like, go get him, Finn. Just go get him every time, because it makes me like hate him. That part makes me hate him, but then I go like, okay, it's I realize, because you know when you sit down and you really like analyze everything that's kind of going on with Ben in this movie. We talked about the regret and stuff he feels after killing Han. And, like you just, what was it, in the novel, Lacey, I know you love the Force Awakens novel. And
I do. And I know Alan Dean Foster is a hot topic lately, but look, Force Awakens is a great novel.
It's fantastic because it adds that little nuance in this part, though, where he kills him and he's like, all right, dark side, fill me up. And he just feels empty and like, okay.
Yeah, he's more broken,
What the heck? Just that it made me feel any better. I feel worse. And that's brilliant. And how cool was it, too, they made the choice to put him in a mask for the whole movie and make us feel like, okay, this guy's like a Darth Vader. He's a monster.
Oh, I totally forgot about that. I thought he was totally, like, destroyed under that.
Me too.
Yeah, it's like, how, what were you, like, you're looking at him like, okay, and then you find out he's haunted like a like, okay, what's going on with this guy? And then he takes his helmet off and he's interrogating Ray. And apparently it's got like a Terminator or some kind of priming function in that helmet because he takes his helmet off and his hair looks great.
Yes.
He's so hot.
I'm a married man.
The funny thing is, in the theater, I remember I was sitting next to my husband at the time. He takes the helmet off, and I was just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It's like Disney Prince, right?
Because I was so kind of prepared because of what Anakin looked like.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, what happened to this guy? He takes the helmet off, and I was like, oh, okay.
This is a personal choice. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, and just I think now that you're saying that, I think I remember like one of the times I went to watch it. It was someone else's first time. I might have been my 20th time. I don't know. But they were like ooh, dang.
Yeah.
It's just like it's kind of jarring because we are used to that. And Scotty, you've been talking about in this, how that scene in Revenge of the Sith is so heartbreaking. It really adds a lot to Vader's line in Return of the Jedi, where he says, "Let me look on you with my own eyes." Where in Revenge of the Sith, the mask is coming down, and you see what he's going to see for the next like 30 years almost. And you're just like ready. You're primed. Like, all right, this somehow he got messed up, and then it's just like, nope. I just really like wearing helmets. But it's just a really cool choice.
Well, he wants to be like his grandpa, and the weird thing is, I just realized this. Ben is the only Skywalker essentially with parents, with a parent that is like, that he's the one that takes his parents away from himself. Like, he's making this choice to kill Han. Like, every Skywalker always longed for their real blood relatives and being with their parents, and Leia maybe not so much, but like the particular, Anakin, loved his mom, was just torn apart, with great use of the word, torn apart phrase, I guess, being torn apart that his mom died. And then Luke being torn apart that his dad is this horribly evil man, that then Ben has this wonderful dad that wants to bring him back. And what does Ben do? He tries to kill the past. He kills his dad. And then it makes
he has
so much...
a wonderful dad, though, that has ignored him for a long period of time. People
Also
tend
true.
to forget that
That is
yes,
true.
Han is wonderful, but he wasn't a great dad. So when you're mad at your dad and he comes up to your door and knocks on your door and goes, hey, do you want to talk? What do you say? No, go away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, people seem to forget that. Like, dude...
I did.
Like... he's not the best dad. He's a great person. He's the good guy, as we know, but... Like, people tend to be like, oh, well, he killed him. Yes, that is absolutely extreme. That is absolutely terrible. However, you have to remember the mindset that Kylo Ren is in at the time. This guy has been gone for however many years. He didn't try until now to reach out. So, like, what do you think is going to happen?
You even see the almost forgiveness in Han, too, as he falls. Like, the way he touches his face before he falls.
That's forgiveness, yeah.
It's
It's brutal.
It's crazy. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean... And Han would be the first person to tell you that he was not a great man. I mean, it's been like in
Last Shot,
and everything. He's like, I really don't get this, but I'm really trying. And I don't know. It's one of those things. So I hope we can get some closure for old Benny boy. Come the Rise of Skywalker. So
Absolutely,
I think we will. And Han's failure as a dad is so reflective of Ben as a character too, because you bring up a good point, Lacey. He was not a good dad, and he is a good man and a good character, but he did not give Ben the love he deserved, and you can see it in every Skywalker, particularly Anakin. I think people tend to forget that Ben Solo is a Skywalker. He is a part of that same lineage, but in particular, he's so much like Anakin in every way. He's this kid with incredible power and incredible talent. He has no idea what to do with it. Then the second someone bad gets involved, he's like, I gotta go with them. But Ben does something different than most of them do. Ben's only out for himself, and from what we know, Ben's only out for himself. That's why he kills Snoke. That's why he, rejects his family. He does not give in to that like every other Skywalker does. Luke was always one to know about his dad. Anakin always wanted to be there for Padme. And Ben Solo is very much solo. And it's cool to see this interaction in particular, how the Force awoke within Rey because of what Ben does. And everyone's like, well, when does the Force really awaken within Rey? Of course, I think it's when she touches the hero's blade. I do agree with that. But I think it's when Ben tapped into her mind the very first time. He is the cause of Rey's awakening. I think he is the reason, and it would make sense for a Skywalker. He did something that he is not happy about doing, and he woke the Force up within Rey, and she wins. She beats him. Like in that mind game part, which I think is some of the best sound design in Star Wars too. It's like all they're doing is staring at each other, and the whole scene is just like the bass is like going crazy on my surround sound system during that sequence.
Yeah, it's a combination of like kittens and motors and
yes,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, wouldn't you all agree that Ben is the reason that Force awoke within her in that regard?
I think so. Snoke talks about darkness rising and light to meet it.
Would like to meet it, yes.
And JJ has also been teasing recently about how, I think he was asked in Rolling Stone, so Rey, why is Rey so powerful or something? Or it's like, something's different about her. And he's like, yeah, it's really crazy. It's almost like there is something going on with her, huh? Like, it gave a little, tease.
Yeah.
And so we're going to find it. But, I don't know, because you gotta, maybe that's when it was kind of unlocked. But, before all that, Snoke says there's been an awakening. Have you felt it? Maybe the Force was just starting to move. Because, how else was Rey? The Force, I feel like, of course, got her off the planet, put her and Ben together, and pushed them in the direction of Han Solo and Ben and all of this. And so, I don't know. I guess I'd agree with that. That was like the moment that maybe it was unlocked in her.
She realized that she had it. That's when she realized, oh wait, I can do this. Because then she tricks the stormtrooper Daniel Craig into taking off the cuffs and everything. It's very interesting because this character Rey, it's so, I don't know, not unexpected, but when it happened, it was like, oh my God, this makes the most sense because the character of Finn is not quite Jedi-ish yet. Poe is not quite Jedi-ish, but being Rey makes so much sense in regards to story, and especially for this protagonist-antagonist relationship that is almost two protagonists. They're both equally important in this story, and people tend to forget that. People really tend to forget that. But yeah, Lacey, what do you think of? What do you think that term awakening means in regards to Rey? Do you think she was the awakening, or do you think the Force manifested through her? Was she the chosen one? It's a big thing.
Chosen one is a term that I'm not going to touch because
there you go.
It's just
good.
It's a little much. It's a little much with Anakin and Luke and everybody else. I'm just not going to touch that term. But that being said, I think there are hints at it throughout the movie. She's flying the Millennium Falcon like no big deal. She's closing the door on the Rathtar, and she says, "Oh, that was lucky," and you're like, "That's not lucky. She's using the Force." Mm-hmm. But I think the kind of snap moment is probably when she touches the lightsaber and has that Force vision.
Oh, it's amazing.
That's kind of like the moment where it kind of clicks, and then she runs away. But then she kind of realizes she has these powers with Kylo Ren. So absolutely. The moment he gets into her mind and she's like, no, I don't want this. And she has to step up, is when I think she unlocks those things. And despite what people think, she does download like a computer, some of the cool things she can do from Ben Solo, which I think people often are like, well, how'd she learn how to do that? How did Luke learn how to do anything?
Right.
So, I think Kylo definitely helped her. I would say kind of like fast pass her Force abilities in that movie to the end. And then obviously you see her at the beginning of the movie fighting. So at the end of the movie when she's in the lightsaber, that is her just fighting like normally. And it's very raw and rough and not perfect. And she's cutting trees and rolling around and like doing all this stuff. But then that moment when she finally gets to like buckle down and like focus and use the Force, so to speak, she overcomes him and bests him, which in the novel, you know, someone is telling her to kill him. So I'm very interested to see if they're gonna admit that that's Palpatine or what. In this next, they don't obviously talk about it in the movie, but in the novel they do. But yeah, I don't know if her awakening came with Kylo, but it definitely like bust open the door, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, you know, you brought up a good point, especially with that being tapped into, you know, and learning, like downloading Kylo's, you know, intelligence in the Force and his feelings towards the Force and everything. And there's one part in TLJ where she's practicing with the rock in front of her and she does the swing, she turns around, she does it. It's the same exact moves Kylo does when he's fighting Luke later, like it frame by frame. Right. And it's like how that just makes so much sense that she would find a way into his mind and open that box and be able to tap into Kylo Ren's power and almost, like you said, download it and take it in and then be able to spit it back out at him at a stronger and better pace and as a much better fighter too, because I mean, we know Kylo was trained by Luke, but Rey was trained in such a raw fashion defending herself, and people tend to forget that, like we said earlier, like she had to fight like every day to get what she needed. And I think the most important thing about Rey is the fact that she is no one. And like we said earlier, you know, she has no part in the story, quote unquote, but she is now writing her own story. She does not have
I'm interested to see what they do with that, though, because I feel like there's more to that than she's just no one. And I could see them totally being like, yeah, she's no one, but she was someone before she became no one by being this person's kid. Like, I think that there's a way they could do it. Right. I just think it doesn't end there because this whole movie, it's funny you bring that up. This whole movie, TFA, the whole time they're saying, who's the girl? Who is this person? Yep. Where does she come from? What is this thing? So then you go into The Last Jedi. I can't help but understand why people are like, wait, she's no one? Then why did you have all these lines in TFA of like, who's the girl? Right. Where'd she come from? Why is Kenobi speaking to her? Yeah. Like, it could have been anybody. Yeah. And they chose Kenobi. They brought in Ewan McGregor to say the line. So what does that mean? And I know that's what I felt leaving the movie was, oh, she must be related to Kenobi, or there must be something there that he's the one speaking to her.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means, but
and it's funny because I think people sometimes like think that people are still holding on to nothing. Like why are you still this issue? No one, so just move on. But
that's not the whole story, and JJ said that, I think.
Well, and I even he said there is something to her. Yeah, you're right. He said art stuff. I was one of those people at first, like after I watched it, I was for a while just like, oh no, like who knows if Kylo's telling her the truth? I know Darksiders have a penchant for telling the truth, unfortunately.
Yeah,
that's what main characters are heroes. But I don't know. I there's a way execution is key. Like guys, like just again. Let's take what they give us and like parse it out after the film. You know, like it's gonna give us just more stuff to talk about.
I would love for her to be related to Kenobi. Can I just say that? Like, that was my hope for her. And I'm sad that it didn't happen. I understand that it didn't happen, but I'm still kind of like a little sad because how epic would it be if the end of the saga, it was Anakin versus Kenobi in the sense of bloodlines? That would be so cool.
Pretty cool. And hey, I think there's still potential, you know. There's still potential for something.
There is.
Here you go, Lacey. There you go. There's hope.
Give me my moment.
Hey, rebellion.
Well, you know, I guess in regards to this part of the story, her being, if she is someone indeed at the end of this, I won't be mad at all. I'll be very happy.
Right.
But in regards to what we know so far, her being a no one is like, it almost, to me, feels best because it's like, yeah, you don't have to be someone to be strong with the Force. You don't have to have a lineage that's ultra powerful and super well known. And maybe the best way to stop this lineage is if other people were to manifest in the Force, kind of like the Skywalkers did. If this conflict can change, if they can learn to take this Force power and tap into it a different way. Like Rey obviously has some dark side in her. Like, let's be honest, that aggression is there. You know, that fiery spirit, like Snoke says. You know, it's like this whole in battle with light versus dark and the world splitting between them and the snow, and it's such a great scene, of course, but it's so poetic about how the whole rest of the sequel trilogy may play out. Because if we have these two versus fighting each other in this movie, and then they're going to be fighting kind of with each other in this movie to, of course, kill the Praetorian Guards, then end in conflict. How is the Rise of Skywalker going to wrap up? If it's going to be poetic, they might join forces to kill Palps, or Palps and Kylo might join to kill Rey. It's just, this wrap up is probably the most exciting part of the Bombad buildup right now. It's just, how are we going to find ourselves after the Rise of Skywalker? How are we going to view this trilogy different? And I've honestly never had a super strong opinion on this sequel trilogy besides how much I like it. But hopefully at the end of it, I can look at it, you know, through different lens about it starts here and it ends here. It's finite, you know. We now have an ending, and I think we, hopefully everyone listening to, can all take a moment to enjoy how much of an adventure this has been, debating and talking and figuring out all these moments leading up to the Rise of Skywalker and this conclusion we're going to have in less than 10 days. How incredible it's going to be to finally have all the answers. At least I hope.
Did you say 10 days?
Pretty much.
Holy freaking crap. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's
I'm back. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I guess to kind of, it is. Well, I guess to kind of close out everything, I kind of want to go into what will the Rise of Skywalker answer. And we didn't get to talk about Finn all that much, but it seems that they're really been hinting at, especially in the Vanity Fair articles by Brenzikin this past week, they kind of hinted at we're going to get some more closure on Finn's past, which I didn't know I need. But after reading that, I'm like, oh, damn. Like, I got to know now, like, what is significant about Finn.
I've thought that since the beginning of this, you know.
Really?
I wonder, because, you know, they kind of talked about they get in this movie a lot of world building. Or like, I mean, they really hit the ground running and hit the gas early in this film. And, you know, when they're talking about, like, you know, these soldiers are raised from birth to be soldiers. They're taken from families and just like basically just take orphans. They just take children, which is also horrifying and sad in its own way. It's funny that this delightful holiday romp has a bunch of kidnapping and, you know, orphans who have been waiting in the desert for days. But like I've been wondering, like, you wonder who his family is and stuff. And I don't know. I don't think he's going to be like related to anyone you would know, but still, just it's important, and it's going to be important for all of us to see where Finn comes from. So
yeah,
I'm excited to see it.
What do you think, Lacey?
I think it's one of those things that, like, it would be cool to see and cool to know, but at the same time, I'm definitely someone that's in the boat of. If I don't know every single detail, then that's okay. Because I find oftentimes as fans, we're always like, well, where did they come from? Who's their parents? What do they like? What kind of sandwiches do they eat on Tuesday? Like, it doesn't matter sometimes. Like, it's okay if there's a little bit that we don't know, because so much comes out in comics and books and everything else that we don't need to know everything. But I think it would be cool to find out if Finn, you know, has a family, and if it ends up to be Janna or Lando or whoever, it would just be nice to see him connected back with people that he got stolen from, which is like a very hopeful thing to see. But if it's more like, oh, you came from here, that's cool. That's something from him. I would like to see him get an actual name. That would be nice.
That would be sick.
Because you feel bad because a name is like part of someone's identity. You know, I don't know who I would be if my name wasn't Lacey. It's just who I am. So, for him in the first movie, from Poe to be like, oh, I'm not calling you that, I'm calling you Finn. You're like, this poor guy doesn't have a name. He has no identity. So I'm hoping that in this next movie, even if it ends up that his name is Finn, he takes on Finn, and Finn, like, he just becomes more into himself. Because I feel like in this movie, he's running away. The next movie, he's running away, and then he kind of fights at the end. Like, I want Finn to get that hero moment that he's been dying to have the first two movies.
You're
like,
right.
Give him time with Rey, give him time with Poe, let him be the hero. Because we get that moment at the end of TFA where he takes in Kylo Ren. But then that's kind of it for him in TFA. He kind of just plays like the comic relief. He's a garbage man. He's a Jedi. No, wait, he's not a Jedi. Just kidding. Like, I want him to have that reigning hero moment where he saves people. He deserves it. Yeah,
and he almost did in TLJ, then Rose cut him off. He was like right there.
I know.
But it is.
But I'm glad she did. Though.
Yeah. This one didn't get that super bad. Like, he was like still so indecisive. So.
Yeah.
And he's in a lot of the trailers and teasers. Him and Poe, I would say, especially Poe, amazingly, are in a lot of the teasers and trailers and pictures and stuff, is the two of them. And I'm just so excited because I'm just really ready for the three of them to be together on an adventure. Yes. I've been wanting it since TFA. I thought I was going to get it in TLJ and I didn't. So I'm excited to get it in this coming up.
Totally. It's a classic Star Wars thing, that trope of, three people interacting and hanging out. Even we got that Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme at some point. We actually got that pretty much every movie in the prequels. It's weird to think that. Even in regards to like the big three of each trilogy, we got, scenes with Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme in all three movies, even though the Revenge of the Sith is kind of a negative version of it. But we've been longing for that. And I get that. It's a great point, Lacey. It's something we've all been kind of desiring and needing from Star Wars. Gerry, in regards to like any character's past, do you think we're going to get any reveal of that? And even Rey or Finn?
Judging from J.J. Abrams' articles, yes.
He's like, no, seriously, I'm going to tell you everything.
It's so funny because even like the mystery box thing, like I love, and like I think it was the Vanity Fair article, maybe it was one of the millions of articles he's been in. He goes like, the mystery box thing was just a TED talk I did.
Yes,
I'm not the mystery box guy. Stop calling me mystery box.
As John would say, hey guys, I don't have a mystery box.
It's fantastic. Oh man, we maybe need to get Bob Iger in here and like talk about it too. So, no. I was gonna say I think we're gonna leave the theater on December 19th. Most of us
satisfied.
Very satisfied.
Seriously.
Yeah, very satisfied. But I think we're also leaving with Finn and Rey having last names. So
yes. Totally.
Yeah. Poe Dameron, Finn, and Rey. Which is still be cool. I still love it. I don't know. I think we're definitely going to be getting some last names for those two cutie guys. Look at them. They're just so cool. Those little friends. Sorry, I'm dad.
Well, I want to bring it up because Lacey brought it up earlier perfectly. The idea of, Rey hearing that voice, kill him, whatever the voice says to her during the fight. And I believe, isn't there another voice in the Alan Dean Foster book? Or no, I think is it the only one?
There is a voice that talks to her during the Force vision that says, I'll come back, sweetheart, I promise, or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And then when she's fighting... of course. No, but the weird thing is when she hears that voice in the Force vision, she says in the book, like, I recognize this voice. I've heard it before, but like, don't leave me here.
Yeah.
So like they need to answer that. And then the second voice is this evil voice that's telling her, and she's like, she wants to kill him.
Yes.
But and then she's like, no. And she like pushes the voice away.
Yes.
So I can't help but think that like, the evil one now makes sense if that's Palpatine. Like, whoa.
Yes.
Second of all, I don't know who the first voice is, but it was someone saying sweetheart, which sweetheart, obviously Han Solo says sweetheart, but it's not Han Solo, so who is it?
Well, I wanted to bring in too how Palpatine has been looming, and I think, just based on what we've known now, I think that was Palpatine talking to her in the fight. But Palpatine also influencing Kylo and Kylo's decisions. And I'm a huge Gerry and I have been always discussing this since y'all started talking about it too on TRB. But I think Palpatine is manifested inside of the helmet. Now, I haven't watched any of the new TV spots or anything. I don't know if that's even answered, even hinted at the new TV spots or any of the leaks you might have seen, Lacey. But
Ghostbusters style, out of the helmet.
Yo, yeah.
I get out of his suitcase before.
Oh, jeez. Like the Ring where she's crawling out of the TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am back. But no, with that being said, I think he is manifested inside of that helmet. And what a better arc. What would, to me, and I remember telling this to several other people that have been on the show, and Lacey, I want to hear your opinion, but how perfect would that be for Kylo's turn to be everything he thought of talking to the helmet of his grandfather and then have it be someone else? How perfectly manipulative Palpatine's part is that? How perfect it is for the idea of Ben being thinking he knows everything about his family to then again, another slap to the face, I'm wrong again. And I'm talking to this man that actually, was horribly evil and nothing like my grandfather. My grandfather tried to kill him. I think Palpatine's looming presence has been hinted at for way longer than we realize. And TLJ doesn't really get into it, but this movie totally sets up something interesting because Show Me the Way of the Dark Side grandfather is not Anakin. That's not Anakin. And we know that. Anakin does not have any, or if it's a split personality of Anakin and Vader, then that's something. But what do you think of that whole idea of not just manifestation in the helmet, but Palpatine being the central villain and completely manipulating Ben?
So it's funny, a year ago when we were talking about episode 9, John, James, and I remember being like, Ben is going to be good. Ben is getting redeemed. Everything's going to be wonderful. And John was like, no way. We have no villain. You can't do that. It makes no sense. And it totally, he was completely right. Don't tell him I said that. So it makes sense that just cut it out. Timestamp is. So anyway, when the trailer came out and, Palpatine being back, I immediately was like, this is it.
Yeah.
He's going to be redeemed. But at the same time, we've had a lot of conversations on the podcast about how is he coming back? How has he been a part of this the whole time? Because you can't just have him show up and not explain how he's influenced the previous 2 films, because that would make no sense whatsoever. So James had a really good idea months ago of when he throws the Emperor down that shaft and he gets electrocuted. When he gets electrocuted, it shows his skull and it goes up into the mask. Is that Palpatine somehow going into the mask?
Yeah.
And has Palpatine been speaking to Kylo Ren, which would make sense, because if he's sitting there and he's going, show me again the power of the dark side, why would Anakin, who's been redeemed, who's tell your sister I was a loving father, why would he be the one to show him the dark side? That makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense.
It totally ruins the redemption of Anakin and Darth Vader. It ruins the end of Return of the Jedi. It would only make sense if it was Palpatine, who's once again being the puppet master, as John says all the time, pulling the strings and playing this kid like nobody's business, which I feel bad. Ben Solo, you are a sucker.
Yeah.
You have been nothing but pushed around, treated terribly, and you are getting played, which I'm sure we'll see in the next film, which it just makes you cheer for him more.
It does.
In The Last Jedi, when he killed Snoke, spoiler alert, and grabbed, pulled the saber and fought with Rey, everyone cheered.
It was the greatest moment.
Every single person in the movie theater cheered. All 8 times I saw it in the movie theater, every single time everyone cheered and clapped.
Yes.
Because people want to see people be good. Bad guys are fun, but everybody ultimately wants people to make the right decisions. And George Lucas himself said that everybody has choices every day. I'm paraphrasing. Has choices every day of whether to do good things or bad things. And it's what you decide to do which makes you the hero or the villain. Ben Solo can still do the right thing. He's just got to get there on his own and realize that he's being played.
I think it's going to take...
Thank you for your time.
No, that means... Dude, it's a beautiful... It is. Yeah, seriously.
Thank you so much for your time.
Well, you know... It's true though. She perfectly summarizes why redemption can work, because this idea of redemption is not. I mean, look at Vader. If you look at Kylo killed his dad. He probably killed a bunch of innocent people. I get that. Vader literally killed little children, his wife, tried killing his other children, tried killing a ton of other Jedi, and we could still all be like, oh, yes, Vader, you did it. We love you, dude. And here we are, Kylo, a 20-year-old, or I guess 30-year-old, I guess.
I think he's 29.
Yeah, like a 30-year-old who is just so conflicted and torn by his parents and by the environment around him, for him to then be manipulated by Palpatine would just be so much. It would just like James and everyone else said on TRB. It would just boom, it clicked. Like, that's it. This is how he's going to get redeemed, because if he sees Rey get defeated, he, in his heart of hearts, and you know him as a character, he's not going to let Palpatine strike her down. He's not. Right. He because I don't know if he would want to do that, or if he just knows that that's not the way. And I think that moment of redemption is going to be when he finally, seals the fate of a Skywalker. He does what no Skywalker can do and actually attack or fight Palpatine, because Vader does not. I mean, Vader picks him up and throws him off a ledge, but it's not like Anakin had a choice in Revenge of the Sith, standing there looking at Mace and Palpatine. Anakin, of course, makes the wrong choice. He cuts off Mace Windu's hand. He's done for, okay? Now, we have this moment, Return of the Jedi. Luke makes a choice. Luke is standing there. He just cut off his dad's hand. He's like, oh my God, I see myself within this character. I cannot be like that. No, I will not. I am a Jedi like my father before me. So be it. Then boom, Palpatine electrifies him, okay? And then Vader makes that choice. All right, I'm going to do what is right. Now we get to Ben, the outcome of all of this. The most manipulated character, the character who has no idea what he wants or what he wants to do. And he's going to be, hopefully, same exact situation, like every third part of a trilogy, stuck with a choice where he has to choose between Rey or Palpatine or whatever the given situation is, and he makes the choice to ultimately be good in his own right. He doesn't have to necessarily be a good guy. He just has to be good in his own regard. It's a big thing to me, and I think people tend to overlook that. It's not Ben-demption for the sake of Ben being a good guy. It's a Ben-demption because this is what the Skywalkers have to go through in each one of their trial, that's what
Star Wars is all about. Star Wars is about redemption and hope, and the moment that we don't have that anymore, it's not a Star Wars movie. No, it's about making the right choice. And I mean, if you look at The Last Jedi, which obviously we're not talking about TFA here, but if you look at The Last Jedi, Ben as a character, Rian Johnson said that in the elevator with Rey, Ben made a choice.
Yes.
His choice was, I'm going to kill Snoke. I'm going to save Rey. But he went in there not knowing how he's going to do it.
Like his dad.
Is the most Han Solo thing I've ever heard. Being like, let me go in there and figure this out as I go. And they, when the lightsaber spins, he kind of figures it out on his own. But that is the right choice. Now, at the end of that scene, he makes a terrible choice.
Yes.
And in TFA, pulling it back to TFA, he makes bad choices. But since it's a 3-movie series, he has to make the bad choices to move the story along. And those bad choices have to happen in 1 and 2. Yeah. So we'll see, I guess, what will happen in the third one. But I've been for Ben-demption for a long time now, and I hope to see it. I just hope he doesn't die in the process.
Yeah. Gerry, any...
I'm sorry. I don't think
no.
Will to not get into it. I guess Red Skywalker, but what? No, I think it would be more interesting now. I would be on the he died train. Stupidly.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, not stupid.
Oh, it's not stupid. Some people think that. That's fine.
Yeah. No, you guys are okay.
It's all right to be wrong.
Yeah, it is. No, but to me, it would be more interesting if he lived, because how cool, how interesting would it be if Darth Vader lived? To deal with the
mistakes.
Of the
Yeah.
stuff. It's going to be interesting. So.
Well,
But no, I completely, Ben Redemption's happening. I mean, just book it, whatever catchphrase you use. It's here, it's coming. We're 10 days away from it. And my cat thinks so too. So.
well, I want to say one more thing before we close this whole episode out, but there's one moment in The Force Awakens that has always stuck out to me, and Lacey and Gerry have both mentioned it before, is the call of the lightsaber when Rey gets it. But the interesting thing is, if you want to look at this trilogy as a whole, the first movie, the lightsaber obviously calls to Rey. Like, Ben can't even lift it up. Like, Ben has he is trying and trying, it's barely moving, and it slings past Ben and goes straight to Rey. All right? Then, in TLJ, Ben had the saber in his hands, Rey goes to pull it from him. And guess what happens? It's caught between the both of them. This blade that was once his grandfather's is caught between the both of them. Now, if this may be me thinking a little out of the box here, but if there is going to be a climactic moment where that lightsaber needs to go to Ben, I am in the group that I think that it's going to fly to Ben Solo for him to finally strike down and end the evil that is Palpatine. If I were to even find a way to think about how Palpatine could die, I think it'd be at the blade of the man that Palpatine turned and ruined. How much more poetic and beautiful could that be? But that's a lot of speculation. But it's something
we're all going to lose our Babu freaking minds whenever he chops off Palpatine's head. So that's going to be pretty cool.
It is going to be cool, but this is an awesome discussion. Seriously, I'm glad we can all reflect on this movie in particular and what this movie may set up and what it may resolve later. And I was telling Gerry earlier, this is going to be a hard movie, and TLJ is going to be a hard movie to discuss because we don't know the outcomes of these movies yet. The Bombad Buildup has been fun because prequels, we know the outcome. Original trilogy, you know the outcome. This is the first one, and we don't know the true outcome of this whole entire story, which is humongous. And this was awesome. Thank you, Lacey. I'm so glad you could be here for this.
Thanks for having me. I love TFA, so anytime people want to talk about it, talk about it.
Messenger. Just like we did. Lacey, if you can, plug where the people can find you. If they listen to Bombadcast, I'd imagine they listen to TRB too, or at least I hope they do.
Oh, that's nice. If you want to talk to me, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Lacey Gilleran, or on the Resistance Broadcast every Monday and Thursday at RBATSWNN on Twitter. And then also on the Mando Fan Show every Friday, which is also our Mando show.
Great coverage. Great coverage.
You.
And Lacey also is in charge of the Patreon page. If you're not a patron for TRB, it's only $2 a month, y'all. Gerry and I are both patrons, and if it wasn't for TRB, yes.
Just bite the bullet, guys.
Thank you.
Well, seriously, we really appreciate what you guys do. So.
I always get so awkward when people are like, "Oh, blah blah blah," and I'm like, like my hands are sweating right now.
Well, okay.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Don't know what to do with my hands.
I don't mean to make your hands sweat more, but Lacey is one of the few. Like, TRB is the reason Bombadcast exists. Because I'm sorry, but it's weird. Because
it's okay.
If it wasn't for that meetup on that Thursday at Celebration in Chicago, it was like Gerry and I finally meeting, and we hung out the whole weekend together. This wouldn't be a thing.
The jaw was sang from the heavens.
I love that.
Yeah. But thank you, Lacey. Seriously, and y'all give her a follow, give her a listen. She's one of the best out there. But anyway, Gerry, what's going on with you? What we got going?
Nothing, man. Just hanging out, So, guys, I can't believe we are finished talking about Force Awakens. Next week we've got Rise of Skywalker. I'm just too excited for Rise of Skywalker. We got Last Jedi coming up next week with our special guest, Mr. Bill Sheehy of Skywalking Through the League. So you guys know he's a member of the one and only club, as we call it.
Yes.
Bombadcast, because we always say everyone's the one and only, because they are. So. But yeah, we're going to have Bill on here to talk about probably the most beloved Star Wars film in the franchise. So come be here for that. It's probably, honestly, going to be another audiobook. So tune in. Guys, if you want to hang out with us more besides just 3 hours on your Tuesdays, you can find us on Twitter at Bombadcast. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can come hang out with us and your dad's new girlfriend, who is a little. She's likes to pretend like she's young, but she's not. But but we're out there hanging out with people like that on Facebook.
It's Facebook,
and all the older people who are still on Facebook. So come hang out with us.
All the boomers.
Bad fam group. And we're running out of stereotypes of people who are still on Facebook.
No, we're not.
I'm still on Facebook. So
Sharon's still on Facebook. My mom.
Yeah.
It's funny. That's where I basically keep up with all my older family.
All the boomers.
Anyway, so we're hanging out with those lovely, lovely people on Facebook. So go join our Facebook group. Scotty, where can the good people find you?
Well, unfortunately, I have been off the grid on all social media. Literally, I can show y'all. I have the app
You
limits.
should be.
I have the app.
It's pretty rough now. The TV spots have gotten to a point that it's like they're giving away full scenes.
Nope, not doing it. Yeah,
I kind of stopped with the TV things, but I'm the TV spots. But I'm trying to just put little blurbs out here and there. So
yeah. Well, I use that thing the whatever it's called, your app usage analytics thing on Apple's settings, and you can set app limits, and I've set a 1 minute for every day on social media. I don't even click Twitter. I'll go through Instagram.
Like, retweet.
Yeah, I'll go through Instagram and do this very quickly. I'm like, okay, people.
I know. Twitter because I guess that is his daily bed.
One minute. So, if you want to talk to me, you can talk to me after the evening of December 19th. I will be on my phone all day at work with the kids celebrating their last day before Christmas break. I'm not going to be talking to them. I'm going to probably neglect them. They'll be in my classroom, but I will not be looking or paying attention. I will be looking through my social media like an addict, waiting to see. Yes. Oh, it's exactly what it's going to be like. Oh, it's verbatim. We'll be just like that, Gerry.
Shout out to the light shark now with Neo Friday with
yes.
Boy and a few people.
Yes. One of my great kids.
Shout out to Disney for the copyright strike. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Lacey, Gerry did a big episode where he broke down TFA and was while he was watching it, and then I kid you not, 15 minutes after it posts, it's boom.
I guess you're the a little bit. All right.
Yeah. But
anyway.
Yeah, no, find me there on Twitter at some point at the Scott Jarrow. You will always see me commenting and being involved with all the great communities we are around in the Twitterverse. But with that being said, purchase one of our shirts, one of our Bombadcast shirts. We're going to get some more designs up there, hopefully by the end of December and beginning of January. We're going to do some, we got some cool things in the works when January comes back around. Gerry and I have been discussing some stuff. But anyway, looking forward to hearing everyone's opinion on this episode and what they feel is going to happen in TROS. But Gerry, where can the good people find you?
Well, they found me. What did I say? Gerry the Cannon Junkie at the Cannon Junkie.
I don't know. Maybe.
Scotty and Jar Jar things.
Yeah.
And grading fine homes. So
or dorm rooms.
Scotty, nothing else. If we are guys have started the sequel officially, and thank you again, Lacey, for popping on, and everybody. Until next time.